All right, today we're going to talk about a tiny island you've probably never even heard of. But, and this is the crazy part, it could be the very thing that triggers the next massive global conflict. We're diving into the story of Kharg Island and why it might just be the point of no return.
Now, I know what you're thinking. The most important piece of land on Earth sounds like a huge overstatement, right? But here's the thing. Right now, in the war rooms and strategic planning sessions of the world's biggest powers, that's exactly how they see this little island. It's got no famous landmarks, no fancy resorts, it's just covered in pipes and tanks. So what makes it so incredibly important?
Well, it's because this island is basically a bright red line in the sand. If American boots hit the ground here, everything changes. We're talking about a move that could totally rewrite the playbook for modern war and send these massive, devastating shockwaves through the entire global economy. So let's dig in and figure out why this one little island holds so much power. Think about it. The fallout would be instant and it would be everywhere. We'd see the price of oil skyrocket in every single market on the planet. Every government, from Beijing to Berlin, would have to scramble and rethink their entire strategy. See, stepping onto Kharg Island, that's not just an invasion. It's a complete upending of the entire geopolitical map as we know it.
So, what is this place, really? To get a handle on just how high the stakes are, we've got to first understand the island itself. You know, where it is, what it does, and how it's got the entire Iranian economy in a chokehold.
Okay, so here are the quick facts. It's tiny, about a third the size of Manhattan, and it's sitting just 21 miles off the coast of Iran. But its function, that's where its real power lies. It does one thing and one thing only. It's a massive, sprawling hub for shipping out Iranian oil. Honestly, don't even think of it as an island. It's more like a giant floating gas station for the rest of the world. And this is the one number you absolutely have to remember. 90%. That's it. 90% of all of Iran's oil exports flow through this one single tiny island. And this chart really just drives home how incredibly vulnerable this makes Iran. I mean, this isn't just their main port. For all intents and purposes, it's their only port for getting crude oil out to the world. Their entire national economy is balanced on this one single point of failure. It's wild. Now, this is where the US strategy gets really interesting. The US recently launched these massive airstrikes on the island. They took out over 90 military targets. We're talking air defenses, naval ships, command bunkers, the whole shebang. But they very deliberately left all the oil stuff standing. The terminals, the tanks, all untouched. So why would they do that? Simple. That infrastructure is now a hostage. So the bombing, that was just phase one. But now the talk in Washington has shifted to something way more drastic. They're talking about a plan to physically seize the island, to take direct physical control of that economic hostage. And this quote, man, it just cuts right to the bone, right to the raw logic of the plan. This isn't about a permanent occupation. No, it's about grabbing Iran's economic lifeline, squeezing it hard, and basically forcing them to the negotiating table just to get it back. The island itself becomes this massive bargaining chip, a bargaining chip the size of an entire country's economy. So here's how the plan is perceived to work in 3 steps. Step 1, keep weakening their defenses with more airstrikes. Step 2, send in a powerful landing force, think US Marines, to actually take the island. And then step 3, the big one, use control of the island to demand huge concessions. We're talking things like ending their nuclear program and guaranteeing free passage for ships through the Strait of Hormuz, you know, that critical choke point where a fifth of the whole world's oil flows. And it's this kind of confidence coming out of the White House that makes this whole situation just so unbelievably tense. The belief seems to be that this would be a quick, clean, easy operation. But man, if history has taught us anything, it's that powerful countries often think they can take a piece of land very easily, only to find out that taking it was the easy part. The long, brutal conflict that follows, that's the real nightmare. But here's the problem. The entire US plan hinges on one key assumption, that Iran will just roll over and give up. And as we're about to see, that might be a very, very dangerous miscalculation. Because Tehran isn't just sitting around waiting. Nope, they are actively getting ready for this exact scenario.
Okay, so the core American assumption is pretty simple. Losing Kharg Island will be the thing that finally breaks Iran. But the reality on the ground? It's way more complicated. You have to remember, after decades of hostility and crushing sanctions, their whole national identity is built around resistance. The idea of just giving in? It's pretty much unthinkable in Tehran. So they're not getting ready for a big conventional battle. They're preparing for a nasty, costly, asymmetrical war designed to make holding that island an absolute nightmare for any occupying force. And here's a perfect example of what they're doing. Iran has been moving man pads onto the island. Now, if you don't know, man pads are man-portable air defense systems. We're talking shoulder-fired missiles, the exact same kind of weapon, by the way, that turned the tide against the Soviets back in Afghanistan. And they're designed to do one thing really, really well: take down the helicopters and low-flying aircraft that would be absolutely essential for any U.S. landing. And if you really want to see the stark difference in mindset here, just compare that earlier quote about how easy this would be with this one from Iran's parliament speaker. This isn't polite diplomatic language, not at all. This is a flat-out promise of brutal, bloody resistance. It's aimed at turning what the U.S. sees as its greatest strength, its military power, into its biggest vulnerability. Right, so an invasion of Kharg Island, that's not something that would just happen in a vacuum. The fallout would ripple across the entire globe, and it would all start with the one thing that powers literally everything we do: oil. Look at this. Any attack that disrupts those terminals on Kharg would almost certainly send the price of crude oil skyrocketing to $200 a barrel, and I mean like overnight. And that doesn't just mean you're paying more at the pump. It means everything costs more. Your groceries, plane tickets, everything. It's the kind of shock that could easily trigger a full-blown global recession. And believe me, it's not just economists who are sounding the alarm. There's a whole chorus of warnings coming from every direction. You've got military experts saying, look, it's going to be hard to take and even harder to hold. America's own allies in the Gulf, they're privately pleading with the U.S. not to do this because they're terrified of Iranian retaliation. And then you have the strategic planners who are pointing out what might be a fatal flaw in the whole plan. Iran can just turn off the taps on the mainland. That would leave the U.S. in control of a completely useless, empty oil terminal. And all of this, it brings us right to this very moment. Today, right now, a moment where the entire world is balanced on a knife's edge, caught between two totally profoundly different futures. This one phrase from a military analysis really just nails the core dilemma here. Technically feasible, but escalatory. What does that mean? It means the United States absolutely has the military power to do this. The Marines are ready, the plans are drawn up. The question isn't can they do it, the question is should they? And that's the incredibly fragile reality of where we are. At the very same time that diplomats are secretly working behind the scenes to try and find a peaceful way out of this, military planners are finalizing the last details for a ground invasion. Both paths are open. Both are being planned for at the exact same time. So it all comes down to this one question, doesn't it? Diplomacy or invasion? Will a deal be struck before the final order is given? Because make no mistake, the second American boots touch Iranian soil, the game changes for good. It's not a skirmish anymore, it's an occupation. And if recent history has taught us anything, it's that occupations almost never end quickly, or cleanly, or without a cost that is just so much higher than anyone ever imagined. The clock is ticking.